Nick Hoffman takes a beating. Jonathan Davenport DQ'd. Donny Schatz goes testing, but not with Tony Stewart Racing. Cory Hedgecock versus Michael Page, and a whole lot more today. Let's go. It's Sunday, July 6th. I'm Justin Fiedler. This is DIRTRACKR Daily presented by Kubota Genuine Parts. In your agricultural or construction operation or even around the home, it's important to keep expenses low. And one way to save is on fuel costs. You can do that without sacrificing performance with Kubota's fuel-efficient machinery. Engineered for optimal energy use, their equipment ensures you can work longer while spending less. Kubota's commitment to fuel efficiency means you can tackle tough jobs while keeping operating costs low. Make the smart choice for your bottom line. Choose Kubota for fuel-efficient machinery. To check out the full line of Kubota equipment, head to your local dealer or visit KubotaUSA.com. We had so much going on this weekend, I'm not really even sure where to start. We had a brawl, we had a top guy DQ'd, another driver take a beating over a slider, some curious testing at Knoxville, plus the regular racing stuff. A kickback because this is going to be a packed show. And I guess we'll start first with Lucas in Ohio. Friday night, the Atomic Speedway show was a battle of attrition on a night where the track had a lot of character. Carson Ferguson out early, Hudson O'Neal had a spin, Tyler Carpenter blew up big, Brandon Overton DNF'd, Garrett Alberson pulled up lame, and Ricky Thornton Jr. broke. Out front, it was pretty much all Brandon Sheppard after Carson Ferguson went out. He led 46 of 50 to score his first Lucas win since way back at the start of 2024. It was just his second National Tour win of the year to go along with a Mars victory and a Summer Nationals win. That last Lucas win was at East Bay back on February 5th of 2024 when Sheppard was still the Longhorn house car driver. There have been a few times now this season where it started to look like this team, the Rocket team, was maybe turning things around, only for the speed to kind of then go away again. Shep was solid on Saturday at Muskingum County. He started on the pole, led laps before finishing third. If this really is the start of a turnaround, time is going to start really not being on their side from making it into the Lucas chase. We're less than 20 race nights away from the final cutoff, and Shep trails a resurgent Hudson O'Neal by 245 points for that final spot. Jason Durham has O'Neal looking like a different driver, and that pairing has won 3 Lucas races in their last 6 starts. That includes last night at Muskingum County. RTJ and Jonathan Davenport have massive gaps back to everybody else, so they're solidly in. The one driver who has looked a bit more vulnerable lately here is Devin Moran. He was on fire through the spring, but the last 3 races have been a battle. 11th at Lernerville, 12th at Atomic, 16th last night. He's still 60 points clear of O'Neal, but of the 4 who are in, he's had the most issues here as of late. Hat tip to Josh Rice for a 17th to 2nd charge at Atomic, and how about Nathan Loney going 25th to 6th last night? The other big talking point to come out of Muskingum County was Jonathan Davenport getting DQ'd post-race for droop chain issues. He was second at the checkered flag, but was later dropped to 25th and last in the order for the infraction. He told Flow Racing afterwards that the car was actually at legal deck height in post-race checks, and by some margin, but that a bolt had backed out, causing the chain to not be tight. The chain not being tight is what then led to the DQ per Lucas rules. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, the major dirt late model series limit how much teams are allowed to travel that left rear suspension. They do so by installing what they call a droop limiting chain that attaches to the left rear axle housing at the bottom and the frame at the top. During the teching process, the Lucas rulebook says, quote, cars will be jacked up until a 40,000th of an inch shim will slide between the left rear tire and the ground. Once the car is jacked up as described, a vertical measurement will be taken from the ground to the top trailing edge of the rear deck bar, 6 inches inboard of the left rear quarter panel outer edge. The measurement must not exceed 51 inches, unquote. And that part, Jonathan Davenport, his car was legal on. The part that got Davenport is the section that says, quote, the travel limiting chain, including the compliance rubber, must be installed so that when the car is jacked up from the rear, the chain assembly is tight, no slack. Davenport said he could feel that something was wrong partway through the race, but that the car was still pretty good. Unfortunately for him, the second place finish would have meant he left the weekend as the points leader, but the DQ now sees him drop behind RTJ. The droop stuff was a big talking point a few years ago, but we rarely see it cause problems in tech these days. Lucas back to action on Thursday at 34 Raceway. Weekend World of Outlaws late model wins at Deer Creek Speedway went to Bobby Pierce and Nick Hoffman. Last night's big money finale was canceled because of weather. Nick Hoffman took an absolute beating for that Friday win, though, after an early slider from him on Tyler Bruning resulted in a big Talladega-style pileup on the Deer Creek front straightaway. That crash ended the night for Bruning, but also for points leader Bobby Pierce, who actually got upside down in the melee, plus Tim McCready, among others, were involved. Hoffman's slider was definitely a tight one, but certainly not the most egregious I've seen. Bruning tried to turn back down, but got sideways and then ended up losing control right in front of the field. Hoffman doesn't really have a reputation for being a dirty driver, and I feel like that alone should have given him at least some leeway with the detractors online, but no such luck. You could obviously tell afterwards that he wasn't proud or jubilant over the win. He addressed all of it in his post-race interview, and he later did say on social media that he'd gone around and talked to some of the drivers involved to help square things. Headed to Sharon Speedway later this week, the championship lead between Pierce and Hoffman has been cut down to 50 points, which a lot of the negative commenters have been sure to bring up. And I would like someone to talk me through the mechanics of Hoffman knowing that him throwing a tight slider on leader Tyler Bruning would have led to fourth running Bobby Pierce crashing out of the event so that he could cut the lead down. Because that is certainly the insinuation here, that Hoffman caused the crash to catch Pierce. That's some butterfly effect Illuminati type stuff here. The other news item to come out of the Outlaw weekend was Ashton Winger off the tour. We were just talking about him running better back in a Rocket chassis versus the Fusion piece he'd been running. But instead of going to Deer Creek, he was at Senoia on Saturday with the Hunt the Front series. He led laps the week before at River Cities, then finished third. He was 14th at Norman County the next night, but things went sideways at Nodak. He pulled up lame in qualifying, was basically done for the night. He didn't run the heat or the main event. His departure leaves the World of Outlaws now with 14 full-time drivers, and Winger will just be pick and choose now. Last night wasn't what he was looking for either. Back around home, he was listed as finishing 18th after starting 12th. No word on what his future schedule could look like. Moving on and sticking with the Hunt the Front Super Dirt Series event, it was a wild night at Senoia, and not for good reasons. In the Super Late Model feature, a last lap slider from Cory Hedgecock on Michael Page set off a wild sequence after the checkered where Page went after Hedgecock with his car. Contact from Hedgecock in the battle for third sent Page into the outside wall. Page was not happy about it. Page, going after the 23 post checkered flag, then turned into a brawl on the backstretch with the two drivers in some sort of wrestling match, and a lot of crew members and bystanders around and involved. Hedgecock is still listed in the third position on the final rundown, but Page was DQ'd and put to the rear. Certainly not the first altercation we've seen Page involved in over the years, and Hedgecock was clearly not afraid to mix it up. I would be surprised if there weren't more penalties announced over this in the coming days. We've now had wild post-incident altercations 2 weeks in a row in dirt late model racing, although at least Page didn't drive his car backwards around the track. I did like Sam Seawright pulling his car to a stop right behind the two drivers to watch everything unfold. By the way, Jimmy Owens, the winner last night with the Hunt the Front series, he maintains the championship lead. There was also a frightening moment during the night's 604 late model racing. A car got into the catch fence towards turn 4 and several bystanders were injured. Senoia Raceway shared, quote, "During tonight's event at Senoia Raceway, an on-track incident occurred that resulted in injuries to 3 spectators. Emergency personnel responded immediately and the individuals involved were transported to a nearby hospital for further evaluation. We have been informed that all parties are alert and receiving care," unquote. Certainly wish the best for all involved there. The final item I wanted to touch on today was the sprint car test session that took place at Knoxville back on Thursday. Several cars on hand to get some laps in during an off-week for major sprint car racing. Drivers taking part included Emerson Axum, Kerry Madsen, Gio Scelzi, Scott Boguski, Garrett Williamson, and Donny Schatz, among others. The thing to point out, though, was that Schatz was there not driving the Tony Stewart Racing 15. He was actually shaking down Guy Forbrook's 5 car. Forbrook's car hasn't been out all year, and besides Schatz helping shake it down, the 10-time Outlaw champ was also there watching over his nieces, Layla and Amelia Eisenshank, who were getting some laps in with their 410 sprint car. Well, this was certainly something to take note of. I don't think there are any shenanigans going on here with Schatz or TSR, meaning I wouldn't expect a shock mid-season change where Schatz leaves TSR for Forbrook's car. It sounds like this was just Schatz helping out Forbrook with that 5 team, working on some preparations for the Knoxville Nationals. If you're going to work on some setup stuff, you'd be hard-pressed to find a driver with more success at Knoxville than Schatz. Outside of this test session and Logan Schuhart and Brent Marks each making a few PA Speedweek appearances, none of the other national touring guys really finding their way to sprint car races during this off week. I'm sure we would have seen a few maybe at Knoxville last night, but that event was rained out. Pennsylvania Speed Week wraps up today with the finale at Path Valley. Going back to late last week, Kyle Larson won the Hagerstown stop on Thursday. Danny Dietrich took the Grove on Friday. And Lance DeWeese, your winner last night at Port Royal. Anthony Macri is in control of the PA Speed Week Championship with just the one race remaining. He's got 35 points on Dietrich with nobody else really near contention. Other weekend sprint car winners included Logan Seavey and Carson Garrett with USAC at Lincoln Park. All-star wins went to Devin Borden and Caleb Henry. AJ Flick and Jordan Ryan were fast winners, and Bryce Lucius and Cap Henry were AFCS winners. Other late model winners included Tyler Millwood, Jason Fager, and Shannon Babb with the Summer Nationals. Dave Hess Jr. and Mason Ziegler were ULMS winners. Max Blair won an unsanctioned show at McKean County, and Cameron Mahler was a Southern Thunder Super Dirt Series winner. That's all the show for today. Hope you guys have a great Sunday out there. We will see you right back here tomorrow.